Mr. Chairman.
I call the honourable member John Hayes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the issues that we have in the foreign affairs portfolio is, I thought and understanding, that party politics stop at the border, and I feel deeply disappointed because we need offshore to be here as New Zealand Inc., all working together for a common cause. So I take some exception to that member's attack on my colleague Murray McCully, who I think has done an absolutely superb job in picking up the pieces left by that last speaker and moving it and New Zealand and the Foreign Ministry into a new plane. Let me just set out some of the Minister's achievements. First of all, New Zealand's exports to China have increased by 150% between 2008 and 2012. India and New Zealand have signed several agreements during the Prime Minister's visit in 2011. For example, in education and films. Progress has been made on the free trade agreement with Russia, because that market has increased its food imports by 500% since 2000. Russia is one of the world's largest markets for the importation of butter and cheese, and New Zealand's exports to Russia in 2011 worth $120 million. New Zealand signed a new accord with our third largest trading group, ASEAN, which is already worth $4.6 billion to our export marketplace. And after 90 years and 10 years' effort by Mr. Goff that got us nowhere, we've got our apples back into Australia. Yes, Murray McCully organised that, not Phil Goff. And our Australian and New Zealand CER investment protocol was signed by the Prime Minister on the 16th of February last year. And we've got ongoing negotiations with Korea. Now, under the Minister's leadership, there's always more to do. That's why he's so busy travelling the world, because he's putting stuff in place for us. We have to develop a comprehensive program of government-led trade delegations to China, India and ASEAN. We've got 28 trade missions to be led by ministers over the next 3 years. Our drive and focus on New Zealand agencies and interaction and the release of a series of New Zealand country strategies goes on. Now let us come back and just reflect on the comments made by the last speaker. We are in a situation where this country is in recession, and no stone is going to be left unturned by this government to get our economy back into surplus by 2014. Part of that, it requires the Foreign Ministry, a directive from Cabinet, to save $24 million a year in each of the next 3 years. That is why John Allen, as Chief Manager of the Foreign Ministry, made the interventions that he did, and those interventions, despite the efforts of that last speaker, are well under control to be progressing. Now, how many have left? They're leaving in droves. Well, I can promise you it wasn't the 300 that you just spoke. In fact, I think you'll find, Mr. Chair, I can promise you that that speaker was absolutely wrong to be asserting that 300 people are going to leave. That is not the case and was never the original plan. I want to also congratulate the Foreign Minister for the wonderful work that he's done on Fiji and getting Fiji and the region engaged. Now, if I think back to 2000, when the then Prime Minister Helen Clark and her Foreign Minister, one Phil Goff, they were driven in their response by the community of Fijian Indians who came into the South Auckland electorates and drove them. And they said, let us put up barriers to that government. Let us refuse to speak to them. And we refused to speak to them for 9 years. 9 long years that member refused to speak to the Fijian. Well, I am very grateful to the leadership shown by Murray McCully personally, who has worked his backside off this year as leader of the Forum Group of Foreign Ministers who have been engaged with Fiji, and they have made significant progress. They have made significant progress in getting Fiji back into the flock, and that Minister, Mr. McCully, has committed significant money to get involved in the registration of Fijians in the electoral process, and I have no doubt that an election will take place in 2014. Mr Chairman, I have only praise for the Minister. Thank you.
I call the honourable member Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr.